Aloha and welcome to this video. My name is Motivational Micah. In this video today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with my first acid trip. I'm pretty positive that acid was my very first psychedelic. I didn't actually do any psychedelics other than marijuana until I was in college. So my very first acid trip, I was going to college at the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, and there's this place called Defiance in Tacoma, and it overlooks the Puget Sound. It's a very beautiful spot. Basically, it's this forest that's kind of enclosed with this road. It's a 5-mile long road, and it's a beautiful forest, untouched. It's just gorgeous, magnificent. There's big trees. It's densely wooded in a lot of the areas that are in that forest specifically. But basically, I wanted to say that when I was doing acid, when I was doing this psychedelic for the first time, it really opened up my mind in a lot of new ways. It really felt like a learning experience, like I was kind of downloading information. I was understanding things in different perspectives, in different ways. I remember at one point I was overlooking the Puget Sound, overlooking the ocean, and basically the forest floor is probably like 150, 200 feet above the ocean. So pretty much the forest goes and then it just drops off heavily. You'll see trees that have fallen down, and it's all really strange and beautiful and interesting. And I just remember that I was able to observe the ocean and the ripples and like the current on the ocean, and it was a really interesting perspective to see the pattern, to see things in a different way, to see just this beautiful movement of water in a way I'd never seen it before. I mean, if you ever have the opportunity to like observe the ripples of the ocean, to observe the currents of the ocean, it's already a pretty magnificent experience. But to experience it while you're tripping a little bit on psychedelics, you really see the patterns in a whole new light. Things are very just interesting to observe. And you really get into this state of observance where you're just going around and taking things in. You're learning in ways that are very foreign to our understanding of learning, of going to school, sitting in class, listening to a lecture, reading a book, watching a movie. It's a very hands-on experience where you're observing things from a new perspective, a perspective you never had before. Basically, that was one of the really beautiful things, to just observe nature, to observe the flow of the ocean, of the water. But we wanted to go get lost in the forest. Our goal was to actually enter the forest and get lost in there while we're tripping, while we're high on acid. And it was a really beautiful experience, just walking around the forest, getting lost. I learned I enjoy being lost. You know, I think with a lot of things in life, most people want to have this plan, this specific course for their life, for, their day-to-day routine. They want things to be very stuck in their ways. They want things to be very planned out. And I learned in that experience that being lost is actually a lot of fun. Being lost, being kind of confused and not knowing where you're at. It's a really interesting and beautiful experience. I love it. And I just had this really interesting trip where we're walking through the forest, and all of a sudden, we're walking over this dead tree. I'm walking over this dead tree. And as I walk over this dead tree, I step on the tree. And immediately as I step on this tree, it turns to dirt. It turns to mud. So I just had this really euphoric experience, like, wow, all the dirt of this forest is actually dead trees. is actually grandfather trees that, you know, all these trees that are here now had the opportunity to grow because of the generations and generations and generations prior to the trees that are living there now. And it was just a really euphoric experience where I understood that the forest itself was one. It was one organism, it was one thing. It was all connected. That this tree that I stepped on, it was dead, but it was also providing life. And that was a trip. That was a really interesting observation. And I loved it. I had a great experience my first time on acid. I think I only really took a tab, so that's basically the bare minimum you can take. I mean, you could cut the tab in half and take less, but I had a really beautiful experience. We were smoking weed as well, so it was a very beautiful and blissful day that day. And I did learn a lot. I came away with a lot of new insights, a lot of things I hadn't really thought about before. I guess just that oneness with everything was something that really struck me in a new way. Just to observe me stepping on something that had died, but the fact that it was dead was what provided the life for it to exist in the first place. And that was a really beautiful, interesting, amazing experience. I think acid is probably most people's favorite psychedelic. It's a very easy come up. It doesn't usually hit you too hard. It's usually a very giddy, very beautiful, very euphoric experience and transition into it. And once you feel it, once it's hitting you, it's an amazing time. It's an amazing experience. But you know, mushrooms are equally connected with acid. Most people like to say that mushrooms, when you're on mushrooms, you're not the driver of the experience. You're just along for the ride. Whereas acid, you more of guide and direct your experience. And I found that to be true in my case. But even with mushrooms at lower doses, you definitely can be in control of your emotions and in control of your experience. But once you get into higher doses, both of those things, you're really along for the ride. I haven't really messed around too much with high doses, but I'm sure at some point, someday, I'll get more into it. But yeah, I guess that's really just what I wanted to share today. My first acid experience was very beautiful, very eye-opening. It really opened my mind in new ways. I observed things that I wouldn't have ever really considered or thought of before. So I had a really great time, I had a really great experience. So with that, much love, much aloha. Thank you for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful life. Go live your life to the fullest. Go expand your consciousness, expand your awareness, and just enjoy your experience here on Earth. We have a blessed opportunity to be alive right now, and we need to make the most of it and enjoy it. And with that, much love, much aloha. Thank you for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Mahalo and aloha.